Picture this. A room buzzing with chatter, cameras flashing, glasses clinking, and the quiet hum of anticipation that always hangs in the air before a Hollywood legend takes the stage. Denzel Washington, polished as ever, steps into the spotlight at a New York City gala. He's done this 1,000 times. Commanded rooms, silenced audiences, owned the stage. But what happened that night wasn't scripted, wasn't rehearsed, and wasn't something even Hollywood could have dreamt up. Because just as he opens his mouth to speak, a wheelchair rolls down the center aisle, and the room goes completely still. What came next wasn't a movie plot. It was real, and it shook Denzel Washington and the world to its core. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Decades earlier, Denzel wasn't the polished man the world adores today. He was just a teenager, reckless, charming, desperate to impress. He had the girl everyone envied, Vanessa, the sweet, brilliant honors student who seemed destined for Ivy League greatness. They were prom royalty, the golden pair of their high school. But one night after the music ended and the streamers fell, Denzel made a choice that would shadow him for the rest of his life. He took the wheel. He had been drinking. He wanted to show off. Minutes later, the car spun out. Metal screamed against asphalt, and their lives changed forever. Vanessa survived, but the accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. The official story given to the community? A tragic crash, 'cause unclear. But Denzel knew the truth. He had caused it. And instead of facing it, he vanished. Within weeks, he left town. Some whispered it was guilt. Others said ambition. All that was left was Vanessa, in a wheelchair, with unanswered questions and a life permanently altered. Now fast forward. The gala, the wheelchair, the silence. When Vanessa introduced herself, the words were simple but searing. "I'm the girl you left behind, and I forgive you." Imagine being Denzel in that moment. A titan of cinema. A man who built a career on characters defined by strength and integrity. And yet, right there in front of flashing cameras and a stunned crowd, he was exposed, not as a hero, but as a flawed, guilty man who had buried the darkest chapter of his past. His knees buckled. He sat down hard. The audience, reporters, even fellow actors, held their breath. Forgiveness, on live stage, after decades of silence. Who saw that coming? But forgiveness wasn't the whole story. The very next day, the young journalist who escorted Vanessa published a feature in The New Yorker. And in black and white, the hidden truth spilled out. Vanessa hadn't stayed silent out of choice. For decades, Denzel's legal team, and by extension, Hollywood studios, had been quietly funneling hush money to her. It was all about image. Protect the rising star. Hide the recklessness. Keep the public narrative clean. Vanessa had lived under that shadow, the weight of secrecy pressing down on her. But with terminal cancer and only months to live, she decided the truth mattered more than the pact. The journalist's expose hit like a bomb. Overnight, the internet was on fire. Denzel wasn't just the beloved actor anymore. He was the man who abandoned his high school sweetheart after crippling her, and then buried it with cash. At his press conference the next morning, Denzel was a shell of the man audiences were used to seeing. His voice broke. His eyes were red. He confirmed everything. No legal team, no spin doctors, no Hollywood polish, just raw confession. He apologized to Vanessa publicly. He admitted he had failed her. And then, in a move that stunned the industry, he announced he was stepping down from all film projects indefinitely. He said he wanted to dedicate the rest of his life to disability justice and trauma healing. He pledged $10 million to a spinal injury foundation in Vanessa's name. And then, the line that left millions reeling, "I spent my life acting, but this was real, and I failed." The reactions were split right down the middle. Some praised him for finally telling the truth, for using his influence and wealth to make amends, even if it was decades late. Others were less forgiving. They wanted his awards revoked. They saw him not as a man making peace, but as a fraud who only confessed because he was caught. Social media became a battlefield. Clips from the gala went viral. Memes. Heated debates. Headlines screamed across the globe. Denzel's dark past exposed, and forgiveness on stage. It was messy, it was human, and it was unforgettable. And then came the inevitable heartbreak. Vanessa's cancer progressed quickly. Just 3 months after her dramatic reappearance, she died. But even in death, she left her mark. Denzel delivered her eulogy, standing before her family, friends, and the community he once abandoned. He cried openly, speaking about love, guilt, and the dangerous weight of secrets. For once, his words weren't part of a script. They were a man's raw attempt to make peace with the woman whose life he had shattered. The story didn't end there. Hollywood, true to form, turned it into something larger than life. A Netflix docuseries followed, unpacking the crash, the cover-up, and the redemption arc. It became one of the most talked-about streaming events of the year. A biopic was greenlit soon after, sparking debates about who could possibly play a young Denzel in such a controversial role. But through all the noise, one truth stood out. The world no longer saw Denzel Washington as a flawless icon. They saw him as something far more complicated. A man burdened by guilt, broken by truth, yet desperately trying to find redemption in the years he had left. And isn't that what makes this story stick with us? Not the fame, not the scandal, but the humanity. Because who among us doesn't have a past we'd rather bury? Who hasn't made mistakes that ripple years into the future? The difference, of course, is that most of us won't have our reckoning broadcast live to the world. Denzel did. And maybe, in watching him fall and attempt to rise again, we see a piece of ourselves. The shame we carry, the apologies left unsaid, the forgiveness we crave but don't always deserve. So here's the challenge. What ghosts are you still running from? What apology have you kept tucked away, hoping time would erase the need? Vanessa's story reminds us that time doesn't heal everything. Some wounds demand truth. Some scars beg for acknowledgement. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't to keep pretending, but to stop, face it, and make amends before it's too late. Denzel's downfall and redemption wasn't a Hollywood script. It was a mirror. And maybe that's why it shook us so deeply. Because it wasn't about a superstar. It was about a man who failed, a woman who forgave, and a truth that couldn't stay buried forever. If there's anything to take from this story, it's this: don't wait for the spotlight, don't wait for the stage, and don't wait until the end. Speak your truth now, apologize now, forgive now, because life doesn't give us endless rewrites. What about you? Is there someone out there still waiting to hear the words you've been too afraid to say? Maybe today's the day you finally say them.